Hello, today I have Andy with me. Hiya, Andy. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name's Andy Hill. As you can see behind me, I write as AJ Hill, and I work in property. Dead Drift is my debut book. I've been reviewing crime and thrillers for a few years now for Shots Mag. I live in a little 18th century cottage in the middle of nowhere here in the South Sussex countryside in the Downs. Yeah, that's really sort of me, I suppose.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a writer?
Oh gosh, I was always a reader, and Stephen King of course said, if you want to be a writer, you need to be a reader. I always enjoyed writing stories and essays, story-based essays when I was at school when I was a kid. And then I did, when I was in my sort of late 20s and early 30s, I wrote pieces for magazines. Not very many, but here and there. And then I kind of just left it and walked away from it. And then one day somebody said to me, "You like crime, why don't you write a book? You'd be good at that." And I kind of sort of started it. I started Dead Drift. It was, the first sort of, first sort of ideas about Dead Drift sort of came from that. And then, of course, life catches up with you. I put it aside for a while. And then a few years ago, Mike Stotter and Ali Karim, who run Shots Mag, bumped into me, and I'd known them from Crime Fest and Theakston's and one or two other bits and pieces. And they said, "Would you like to review for us?" And I said yes, naturally on the basis that I was getting free books to read. That was good enough for me. They didn't need to pay me. And I started sort of reviewing for them, and I got sent books that I'd read, and I'm not going to name any names, that I read, and I wondered, how on earth did these get published? I could do better than this. And then one day I kind of said, yeah, I could actually do better than this, and went back to Dead Drift and started writing. And that's kind of really where I seriously got the bug. I've got about 60-odd thousand words of the follow-on to Dead Drift written now. And it's a joy to take my characters on a journey. And to a certain extent, I find the characters take me now. My fabulous editor, Katie Forster, one of the things that she got me to do was to actually do character outlines for all of my characters. And that really asked me to get to know them better. And that was a really, really good exercise for me.
I know that a lot of readers possibly think about writing. So when you actually did start writing, what did you find harder than you thought it would be, and what did you find easier?
I remember going to CSI Portsmouth, which Pauline Rowson ran back in the day, and listening to her talk about how she micro plots almost every chapter, and then Anne Cleeves talking about how now she comes up with an idea and the characters write the story. And I kind of thought, well, I can't possibly do the Anne Cleeves style because I don't know how that would work. I better try Pauline's style, and I tried micro plotting, and it just didn't work for me. And I kind of have an idea for a start, and I have an idea of what the end is, and I have some waypoints in between that I need to hit. and that's kind of how I do it. And weirdly, what I do is I write in a day. So it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and then I'll carve those bits up into the chapters. And at that point, when I'm carving it up into the chapters, that's when I'll put what's in the chapters to make sure it all works, and put the page numbers against the chapters to make sure it all fits together. And yeah, there have been a few times when I've gone and realized that in actual fact, something I've put in there doesn't actually work within the timeline. But generally speaking, it works okay. So yeah, I'm definitely a pantser type writer rather than a plotter.
Do you have a favourite character, or what's the most fun character that you write?
Oh, I've been very honest about the fact that Jack, who's the central character, has got a lot of me in him. So you know, one would expect that Jack probably is the guy, and he is fun to write. He's more focused than I am. He's more single track minded than I am, and there are some significant differences. But he has some of my character flaws, undoubtedly. But it's his side. You know, I hate to call her his sidekick, because she's certainly not. She is absolutely his equal in terms of intellect. But Jem, who is Jack's, you know, partner in this, not partner in the romantic sense, but partner in the crime solving. She's been actually the most interesting to write, and she came about completely at the end of or what I thought was going to be the end of the process, because she started off as a male character, and then we got towards what I was thinking was going to be the final draft, and KT, who was my editor, we were talking about things, and she sort of put in there that had you thought about Jem as had you thought about Dom, as the character was called Dom, had you thought about Dom as a female character? And I basically said to her that I had considered it, but I didn't want it to be a tick box exercise, but I wasn't afraid of the work in terms of changing it. And so she set me the task of writing a character profile of Jem, and about 500-600 words of an interchange between her and Jack. And of course, I sent this off to her. And about 24 hours later, she rang me back, laughing at me down the phone, saying, "You've stitched yourself up, haven't you?" And I knew I had, because I compared the character profile of Jem with the one with Dom, and it was so much fuller. And then when I went back and did the rewrites to change her name, and I was just giving her more and more stuff to do. And she's just such an interesting character. And she's you know, you get the normal sort of cliche of maverick cop. And Jack, to a certain extent, was, when he was a copper, was happy to, should we say, slightly stray into grey areas. Jem literally rubs out the line between black and white and just boldly marches across there. She's ex-military intelligence, and it's just a question of, she will do anything pretty much to get the result, because when she was in military intelligence, that could have been somebody's life that she was saving. So she's multilingual. She's a very, very bright spark. Yeah, I've enjoyed the interchanges between them. And yeah, it's been great fun working and developing her as a character.
Do you hide any secret jokes or messages or Easter eggs in your books?
No, I wouldn't say so. But I have ruthlessly stolen old school friends' names for characters. So Rona Blacklock, who is the detective chief superintendent and Jack's old colleague, I stole her surname from an old friend of mine, Luther Blacklock. There is a journalist friend of Jack's called David Anderson, and one of my closest friends is an old school friend called Angus McSwan, and his middle names are David Anderson. You couldn't actually get a more Scottish name, could you? Angus David Anderson McSwan. Makes Billy Connolly sound like he's some sort of borderline Brit. And there's a QC in it, and his name is very close to a judge friend of mine's name. So yeah, and there's a few others that I've totally stolen. There's a bar owner who is known as Robin Millward, and that's very close to a former bar owner friend of mine from Lymington, called Bob Smith, whose middle name is Millward. So yeah, there's a good few that I've stolen there. Yeah, absolutely.
They're very cruel parents out there as well.
Well, I always remember the chairman of the trustees of my old school, which was a boarding school. His name was Humphrey Pover Triberian Prideaux. Now, if you know that was his parents, you start off with the surname Prideaux, and then to pile those three on top is pretty much something to have to bear with. But he was a really good guy and a fantastic servant to the school.
What was I just going to ask you? What's the most interesting thing you found researching your books?
Oh gosh, actually, I was looking for a link to put Jack back close to the police in a way that would enable him to investigate without being investigating, if you like. And I found something called an IAG, and it's a group basically of locals that police will. So in big cities they would have possibly a Muslim and a Sikh IAG, an Afro-Caribbean IAG. But this is based out in the countryside. So what you've got is landowners, hotel owners, and Jack basically got onto it at the recommendation of Rona, his old colleague, and IAGs. I spoke to Graham Bartlett, who we were talking about earlier, and Graham said, it's a foolish senior police officer who doesn't listen to what's coming out of his IAGs. And they're basically a mechanism by which way the police can feed into what's going on in the local area or a local community, and they're absolutely vital these days. So that was something that sort of surprisingly dropped in my lap.
One of my fun questions: if you were going to fictionally kill someone, how would you do it?
Oh, I can't actually tell you, because it's a plot point in the follow on. Yeah, there is a way of pretty much disposing, shall we say, of everything of a body apart from the teeth. And it has something to do with traditions within the New Forest. And I don't mean that we, in the New Forest, we took bodies and disposed of them in this particular way. We don't, but there is something that goes on in the New Forest in the autumn that is a plot point within the follow-on to Dead Drift, which is tentatively called Bloody Butcher.
And then if you were fictionally murdered, who would you want to solve the crime?
Oh God. I love Morse. I've loved Morse. I enjoyed Lewis, and I love Endeavour. I you know that. I think the actor who now plays Endeavour has really caught the character that John Thor invented. Well, not John Thor, but that Mortimer invented, and John Thor brought to the screen for us. So I think, yeah, I'd like Endeavour Morse to solve it for me.
And if you were to team up your detectives with any others that were fictional to solve an unsolved crime, who would you choose and what would you get them to solve?
Oh gosh, oh gosh. I love Rankin's Rebus, and you know, Mike Billingham wrote such a compelling copper as well, but Peter Robinson's, I don't know if I've got his any of his stuff here actually at the moment. I don't know. I did, yeah. I did. So Banks and Lunn, I think, would fit quite nicely together. They both like their music. Although Banks is a little bit more intense and selective, and Jack, I think, is a bit more sort of quite happy to indulge in modern stuff. But you know, my Spotify list is, if I take my Spotify list to be Jack's Spotify list, I've got everything from, I don't know, Woody Guthrie to rap to dance to, you know, the Eagles to Led Zeppelin to, you know, I've got very broad church of choice, and I think Jack's like that. Whereas I think Banksy is a bit more sort of blinkered in his approach. But I think at heart they have both that sense of that need to do to bring that need for justice, for the right thing. So yeah, I think they work pretty well together.
And when you're editing your book, what's your most overused word or phrase?
Oh Lord. I have absolutely not the vaguest idea.
Ooh, that's unusual.
Absolutely, I have not. I've never. I know there's a tool you can use to find out what you use. I've never used it. I must admit, and nobody's ever sort of brought it up with me. So I guess maybe I do kind of, when I've gone back through, I've noticed myself using words, or not a phrase, but words to start a sentence off, and have changed them. But yeah, don't know really.
Most authors know their word, like just like that. They know, they're like, oh.
It's that one, yeah.
Yeah. And quite frequently it's just, but some of them are really funny, like pursed lips or thin lips, or people shrug a lot and stuff. So I just think it's really, really interesting to see what people overuse.
I must run that algorithm and find out now. You've intrigued me.
Or ask your editor. Your editor will definitely know. You can imagine rolling their eyes and going, "Oh,
that one again."
I have to, yeah. If you were able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you like to spend a day with?
Oh my gosh. Bob Woodward. two things really. I think obviously All the President's Men, but he wrote Fear, which is about Trump's administration, and to look at to be able to sit with him and listen to him talk about two really polarizing events within American history, that would be really interesting. Now, I guess the other one would be Stephen Ambrose, who's the writer of Band of Brothers, because he got to interview all those guys, and Band of Brothers is one of my go-to box sets, because it reminds me of humanity, really, and that ordinary people do extraordinary things. And there's a piece at the end of it which always kind of reduces me almost to tears, which is when Dick Winter, who was the leader of Easy Company, is asked by his grandchild, "Granddad, were you a hero?" And he says, "No, I wasn't, but I served with heroes." And that humility, because he was undoubtedly a hero, was incredibly astounding to me, and I always find it incredibly moving. But yeah, those two guys, yeah, I'd love to have sat down and had a chat with both of them.
What do you like to do in your free time?
Oh gosh, I love to cook, I'm a bit of this and a bit of that cook. I do follow. First time I'm cooking something, I'll follow the recipe, and then I tend to tweak stuff. But I love to cook. I love to fly fish. That's it's been one of my passions for a number of years now, and it has been difficult, of course, to try and get that, to try and get out to do that over the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to a time when I can get back out and do that again. I like a good movie. I like a good box set. I love to read. And there's a fabulous coffee place in Hastings that I was allowed to discover, called Hanushka. And this place not only serves great coffee and good food, but it's wall-to-wall books, and you can go in there and if you find a book that you like, you can basically pay what you feel is a fair price for it. There's no sort of haggling or anything like that. If you think a book is worth a fiver, then pay a fiver for it, or if you think it's only worth £1, pay £1. And my poor partner drags me out of there kicking and screaming, normally clutching books, I have to say. So yeah, my book buying, that's a lovely place to go. And people watch and talk to people, and there's a regular crowd that sort of gather there, and it's generally guys in their late 50s, early 60s, and we don't socialize with them very much or anything like that, but every once in a while we just go and sit with them and talk to them. And we've had everything from theoretical physics and quantum physics to what's gone wrong with Brighton Football Club. So yeah, I kind of like that whole people watching thing. It's great fun.
Sounds awesome. If you're able to travel to any period of time, either forwards or backwards, where would you like to go?
I'm happy here. Thanks very much. I'm really happy in where I am now.
Yeah, perhaps pre-pandemic, as long as it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think when you were saying that, I was assuming would you transport my whole life back or forwards, but yeah, there was I guess it's been interesting because for me, one of the things that this whole pandemic has enabled me to do is actually to focus a little bit more on myself, because it's all about me. But also to understand that all of those things that we think are really important, you know, the big house and the fast car and the holidays abroad and everything like that, really aren't that important. What's important is living in the day and being grateful that we've got a roof over our heads and food in the refrigerator and that kind of thing, and that our friends and family are safe. And I think that's been an interesting adjustment in perspective.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Okay, what's the strangest or funniest place you've ever woken up?
Strangest place I've ever woken up, or funniest place I've ever woken up? Never in jail, thank God.
Good.
I'm just trying to think. Strangest. Blimey, I can't really think of anywhere particularly strange. This was probably, I mean, this was going back into, yeah, my teenage years, I would say. And I guess, you know, waking up one morning half in and half out of a tent on a Duke of Edinburgh expedition, having had the expedition the night before to the local pub. That's probably about as embarrassing as it gets. There was an occasion in the Maldives where there was a large amount of margaritas had the night before, and the strangest place that I kind of woke up then was on the bathroom floor because I'd been being sick most of the night. But
funny how alcohol's usually involved in these stories.
yeah. I mean, I gave it up a couple of years ago, so it's no longer part of the story. So I have no excuse now. I'm sober.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh gosh, and my first celebrity crush. Dear oh dear. I can't remember who my first celebrity crush was, but she is still a celebrity crush of mine, and that's Sigourney Weaver. You know, there is something about a feisty woman with a flamethrower that gets me every time.
You wouldn't know what to do with her.
No, but it might be fun finding out.
Does she wear a catsuit or something in something? Is that
no? It's the whole alien thing, and of course she was the wife in. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but it was where the American president died of a heart attack and they replaced him with a look-alike, and she was the president's wife. And I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but she was hot in that, and she was hot in you know, she's a great looking woman and such a talented actress. I think she has got great range, which and yeah, you know, she's I mean, I know she's in the new Avatar, or the next Avatar that's coming up. She was in the first Avatar movie. But yeah, I think she's a great actress, and love watching her. And you know, yeah, she's talented and sexy. What else do you need, as far as I'm concerned?
She's a popular choice, so yeah. Do you have any nicknames?
Yeah. I don't have an active nickname now, and I had one when I was at boarding school, which was Jack, hence why Jack is called Jack. And when my publishers were talking about how I wanted to be referred to as an author, my parents, being good Northern people, were too cheap to buy me a second name. So the J is basically the Jack. So the AJ is actually the J is actually made up. But it's a salute really to my nickname from boarding school, which is Jack, and a salute to Jack, who is the central character.
Oh, cool story. And judging by some of the middle names that other parents gave their kids, you might have got away lightly.
I think you're right. I did get away scot-free.
Even though your book hasn't been released yet, what's been your favourite part of the journey so far?
Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Okay. So my favorite bit of this whole journey was I was in a meeting that was coming towards its end, and Sumaira, who is the director of the publishing company Spellbound that I'm published by, who has been a long-time friend of mine too, and I love her to bits. She's a terrific lady, and Nikki, her partner in crime, is wonderful too. Sumaira, I had sent my MS off to Spellbound some months before, and I'd kind of, when I'd sent them off to publishers, I'd sent a couple off beforehand, and I kind of just released them into the wild and try my best not to be sat there going, why haven't the publishers contacted me? Where is my multi-million-dollar contract? And all of that BS. So I got this message from Sumaira saying, how are you? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. How's you? I said, how would you like a book deal? And she got a two-word reply, which was fuck yes. And I know Sumaira well enough to know that the F word is one of her favorite words. I knew she wouldn't take offense. And we had a Zoom meeting and bashed out the 3-book deal. So yeah, and it couldn't happen with two, I was so pleased to be published with them. And Zoe, who does the blog tour organizing, and Mark, who does all the digital stuff, Dee, who proofreads. They're just all really special people. I haven't met Zoe and Mark yet. Mark and I were supposed to meet at Harrogate last year and actually share a hotel room, and never got. He got delayed, or whatever was going on with him. Zoe I haven't met yet, but I was fortunate enough to meet Dee up at Harrogate, and as I say, Nikki and Sumaira have been friends for a good few years. So it's that's my favourite bit. I guess the other story I'd tell was when Sumaira rang me in between Christmas and New Year, and my partner's selling her house at the moment. We're out looking at houses, and told me when it was going to be published, and it made it really incredibly real. I knew it was going to be January, but then all of a sudden the date was in front of me, and my partner just sort of said to me, "You've gone ever so quiet, haven't you?" I sort of said, "Yeah." She said, "Why?" I said, "It's imposter syndrome, and I think creative people do suffer from it." And when I actually got the publishing deal, I have a friend of mine in America who is an Emmy award-winning director, and no names, no pack drill. And I spoke to him about it, and he said, "Look, I know exactly what you're going through at the moment. Is that it's that elation followed by the oh shit moment of realizing that of thinking everybody's going to read my stuff and think it's rubbish." And he said, the first time I remember the day I walked on the set to direct my first $1 million video shoot for a record, and it was Eminem was the artist. And he said, I walked onto the set thinking I've made it, and at the same time there's this little voice in the background going, you're going to get found out. And to have that sort of conversation with a friend, and for them to be that supportive has been amazing. And that's one of the things that I have found with the crime and thriller crowd, is that they are the most warm, loving, supportive bunch. And over the years, I've had, you know, people like Steve Mosby and Steve Kavanagh, and you know, Neil Broadfoot, and oh gosh, just so many people be supportive of what I've been doing, and God bless them for that.
Yeah, I met Steve Mosby at Harrogate and asked if I could have my picture taken with him, and he's like, why would you want your picture with me? I'm like, because you wrote one of the best books last year and you're awesome. And he is just so unassuming, isn't he? He really is. He is
Mr. Humble, Mr. You know, he is so unassuming, and yet he is so talented, and you know, I think, yeah, he's just such a you know, such a nice guy, and that's, you know, that's one of the great privileges, that to actually and this really is sort of again is something that I have to thank Shots for, is actually introducing me to people like Tony Kent and Rod Reynolds and people like that, to have their first book sent to me to review, and for them actually then to become acquaintances and you know, and friends, has been awesome, absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Are you going to the festivals this year?
Yeah, I'm already booked for Crime Fest. I'm looking at Lime Crime and probably Harrogate, and yeah, you know, we'll look at some more for later in the year, hopefully, depending on how sales go.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll get to meet you at Harrogate then. I was there last year, so we must have just.
Yes, we know. I've actually got a picture of you.
Really?
Sat on the same table with Paul Finch.
Okay.
Yeah, we were sort of ships that passed in the night. I think we never quite got to say hello to each other.
Yeah, that's how it goes, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell us about.
Oh gosh, no, I mean, I think we've probably covered it. I hope people, you know, when they get the chance to read Dead Drift, enjoy it. We're going to be on a journey for a wee while with Jack. I've got a 3-book deal, as I said, with Spellbound. So those 3 are 3 Jack Lund books. I've got another 2 ideas for him, and then there's a standalone and a couple of more spin-off series that are to come off good old Jack. I think we'll be looking at some point further down the line, hopefully, at his life as when he was a copper, and as I say, there's a standalone that I'm really interested in writing, that has been running around in my head for a little while, but because I've been so focused on getting Dead Drift finished and then getting the 2nd book underway, I haven't really got anything down on paper other than this vague idea. But it just keeps, and most authors will tell you this, that it's this little knock on the back of your head every once in a while that goes, I'm still here. So yeah, you know, I'm just hopeful that people enjoy it when they get a chance to read it, and I hope you enjoy it too, Donna. Thanks ever so much for having me on.
Very welcome, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And it's out on the 30th, you said, was it?
Yeah.
And then when the blog tour starts as well?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And you're just a few days into the blog tour, and hopefully that gives you a chance to have a glance at it before then.
Do. Otherwise Zoe shouts at me. No, she doesn't really. She's very laid back, actually. I always say that I used to call her the I can't remember now, but she didn't like it. She got very offended, but she's great, so it's fine.
Fantastic. And before we go, I've got to ask you what the hound is known as.
Trixie.
Can't find me. knows
Not
you.
interested, are you?
Oh, look. Oh, that's beautiful. That's lovely.
Yeah, she now features in all of my interviews.
Quite right too. Quite right too.
So just before we go, would you like to tell everyone where they can get your book from and where they can find out more about you if they would like to?
So you can order the book online at Amazon. You can pre-order for Kindle now. And just look under AJ Hill, and obviously you're looking then for that cover for Dead Drift. Hard copies are available to order as of 30th. No bookstores, unfortunately. This is print on demand and digital first, which is great. You can find me on Facebook under Andy Hill, and look for my poor, ugly, bespectacled mug there. And if you friend me there, then quite often I would then usually send you the link to AJ Hill, the AJ Hill page as well. Yeah, I am on Instagram as well, Andy28DEC, all lowercase. But that's kind of just my personal thing, but I do chuck the odd bits and pieces up. And there are going to be some more teaser trailers going up over the next few days, both on the Spellbound website and on the Andy Hill and AJ Hill websites.
Fabulous. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks for having me. You take care. Bye, Trixie.